So, as you might have guessed from the title of this video, I'm going to share with you exactly how hypnobirthing helped me through open heart surgery. So today is my 4th anniversary since I was currently lying on a theatre table at Leeds General Infirmary with my sternum split open, with my chest clamped open, my heart and my lungs on a machine so that I was not even breathing for myself, or nothing was doing what it was supposed to be doing. I was on a ventilator. And so this might be news for some of you. Some of you who've been following me for a while will have heard me talk about this before. So if you can hear me, just give me a little thumbs up or like somewhere so that I know volume is working. I did a whole video the other day that was completely with no sound whatsoever. So yes, 4 years ago today, my open heart surgery. So just a little bit of background, my open heart surgery came as quite a big shock to us. We had no idea that I had any need for heart surgery whatsoever. We only discovered it because one day I pulled a muscle in my chest, and when I went to the doctor and they were sounding my chest, they were just hearing this blub, 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 and it was not making the right kind of noise. And so basically it was discovered that I had a hole in my heart this size, 3.5 centimeters big, and it was making my blood go back and forth, but without the oxygenated blood. So it was basically just going back with the oxygen to be oxygenated all over again. So it meant that I was often breathless, I was often tired, I was always pure white, and I could run up a hill quite happily, but I would just be absolutely exhausted at the end of it. Actually, that's a lie. I couldn't run up the hill properly. I could walk up the hill, but by the end of the day, I would be flat out on the sofa, 100% exhausted. And so we discovered I needed this surgery. It was hoped we could do a very simple procedure, obviously still comes with its risks, which would just have been keyhole surgery, but that was unsuccessful just before Christmas, and so we ended up going for open heart surgery. So you might be thinking, how on earth has hypnobirthing got anything to do with this? Now, I talk about hypnobirthing as being a life skill, something that you can use again and again in so many different environments. And often when I say that, it feels really cheesy, as if I'm talking about a bag for life. But actually, if you can use hypnobirthing for open heart surgery, I used hypnobirthing when my dad was terminally ill. I used all of those skills to support him right up until his very last breath. And so hypnobirthing is something that is so versatile. As a new parent, you'll be able to use it with your baby, when your baby is a toddler, when they're at school, when they're a teenager, when they're in their 20s, when they're getting married, when they're having their own babies. If that's the path that they choose, you will be able to use hypnobirthing over and over again in so many different ways. And so let's just look at some of the similarities. I've got notes here because I could honestly just talk about this forever, so I will try and keep to my notes this time. So we talk about having a birth plan, and in the birth plan people will say, what if it just all goes out the window, it doesn't go according to plan? And the point of the birth plan isn't to make sure it goes according to plan, just like my ideal plan for my open heart surgery did not go according to plan. So how did I want my open heart surgery to go? Obviously, I wanted it to be a success. I wanted the surgery to keep me alive, to be thorough, and to do everything it needed to do. That was number one. In an ideal world, I would have liked to have plenty of notice about my surgery. As it happened, I put myself on the short notice cancellation list, which I'll tell you about in a minute, but I would have liked to have plenty of notice. I would have liked to have written some letters to my family and friends just in case anything happened before, and I would have liked to have been able to have my bag packed, have everything done, and just to completely chill out for a couple of days before my surgery. Just in the same way that when you talk about your birth plan, you want your bag packed, you probably want to be chilling out in the days before you go into labour, and you're also just looking for that reassurance of your friends and your family around. In an ideal world, you would know when you were going to go into labour. Instead, here's what I got. I was up here for Easter visiting my mum and my dad. We were out for lunch, and I was phoned by Leeds General Infirmary to let me know that a cancellation had come up. Just a minute, I said, I'll get my diary and let you know if I can do it. I'll write it in. And then the receptionist told me, actually, no, it's for tonight. So this was at 2 o'clock on a Tuesday afternoon, and I'm being told it's for tonight. We want you at Leeds General Infirmary for 6 o'clock. I was in Dingwall, Leeds General Infirmary, quite far away, not even sure it was humanly possible for me to get there. And so, or at least humanly possible. So I made the phone calls, I checked I could get on a flight, which I could. We hurriedly, I'll never forget, my dad wanted to still have his carrot and coriander soup, but there wasn't time. We came back through to Bewley, where my folks live. We packed up my stuff. I got on the plane. I was at the airport on my own for 2 hours waiting to get on this plane, really nervous, kind of angsty nervous. And then got into Manchester, got picked up by my husband, went home, packed my bag, and instead of going that evening, we went first thing the next morning. So as you can imagine, none of that was how I wanted it to look. So what was I already doing with my hypnobirthing? I was already seeing myself calm and relaxed. I was already imagining myself through the other side of surgery, feeling so much better, knowing that all of that worry of how was it going to be was well and truly behind me. I also knew that there was plenty I could do around my environment, around my thinking, and using my breath to really calm me down and to keep me feeling good. And so when we got to the hospital, everything there was fine. The surgeon came through to talk to me in the morning. And he said to me, Mr. Jabber, lovely, lovely man, most amazing man. He said to me, now Sophia, you know this is a teaching hospital, which I did. And sometimes we like to allow our more senior students to make the incision. And I could kind of hear these words as if they were subtitles, but I wasn't really picking up on them. And so I was very much using my brains, that acronym, benefits, risks, alternatives, intuition, do nothing, smile. And I was looking at him and thinking, what does this mean? And eventually it dawned on me, oh, he means he wants to let a student cut my chest open. That didn't feel good. Now, I'm all for students, I'm all for learning, of course I am, but at the same time, if I had had 2 months, maybe a month, maybe even a week to consider how I would feel about that and to emotionally prepare, I would have been comfortable with it, but I was not comfortable with having a student make that incision for open heart surgery. So I looked at Mr. Jabber and I said to him, no thank you, I would like you to make the incision. And then he continued to look at me and I said, promise me you will make the incision. He promised. I signed the rest of the form. That was fine. Then we went on to pre-medication. Did I want some pre-meds for the morning just to chill me out? No, thank you. I'm going to do my own thing. I'm just going to relax and do what I need to do to feel emotionally and physically prepared for surgery. Again, know your rights, know what you can say yes and no to. And if you're not sure, ask, like, why do I need those pre-meds to help you feel calm and relaxed? No, I already feel calm and relaxed. It's totally fine. And so off they went. When it came to having the actual surgery itself, I was in the hospital gown. I had everything that I needed to do. I had everything done, all the paperwork signed. But my husband and I still just wanted a little bit of time, just the two of us, before we went through. So we got that time to ourselves, and then my husband was able to walk with me right through to the theatre and then leave me at the theatre door, which was quite an emotional bye-bye, as I'm sure you can imagine. But as all good birth partners do, all good operation partners, if you like, procedural partners, are there for you for as long as possible in the way that you need them to be. So he went away. When it came back from the surgery itself, then I was in a lot of pain. My sternum had been broken, my heart and my lungs had been stopped, I was on the ventilator, and so I was obviously all put back together, but everything here was broken, swollen, broken, 5-inch scar. Scar exactly the same length as the side of my iPhone. So as you can imagine, quite a lot of pain. And so what do we do with that pain? Of course, I was not just going to say, I will just breathe through this pain, because this was not passing pain. This was intense, broken bones knitting back together, bones that have been sawn apart and knitting back together. They were wired together. So there's also that pulling sensation in the center of my chest. And so at that point, I was able to use my breathing techniques, able to use affirmations, able to go to my safe place if I needed to, my happy place in my mind where everything just felt calm, where I could imagine the sea lapping on the shore, I could imagine the warmth of the sunshine, everything that I needed to help me to feel better and more secure. So then when it came to the environment, it's a busy ward. It was a general cardiac ward. It was mixed genders. There was men, there was women there. everybody had had some sort of procedure. There was lots of huffing and puffing, moaning and groaning, all sorts of different stuff going on, and it didn't feel good to me. I'm a highly sensitive person anyway, which means that I am really, really sensitive, really highly tuned into signs, to scents, to energies, to atmospheres, to all of that kind of stuff. And so in hypnobirthing, we also teach you to take control of what you can and let go of what you can't. And so I had already arranged, even though my hospital bag hadn't been packed, I already had many of the things I needed. I had chosen to have nice, brightly coloured towels that I could take in with me and face cloths. So I had turquoise ones, I had these ones. That just made me feel like it was a bit more like home. And then I bought loads and loads of these afterwards and used them all for baby massage, which was amazing to have that memory of care and attention and dedication. So I had all of those. I had lovely scented hand cream or body lotion that just made a lovely fragrance in the room that was nice and calming. Get quite dry skin when you're in those environments. All of that really helped me as well. I had essential oils. So specifically for me at that point, I was using lavender, lemon and tea tree and some patchouli very grinding. So it's not everybody's kind of smell, but obviously in a general mixed place, you have to be very careful what you're using so that you don't, your comfort is not somebody else's discomfort. But I'll come to that in a second. And then I also had some kind of positive affirmations I could refer to. And I had a little bit of a hospital bag packed well in advance because I just didn't know when it was going to happen. But it wasn't packed completely the way that I would have chosen to pack it. And so I was then aware of these people kind of shuffling up and down the ward. Really not feeling good. Now, of course, they weren't feeling good. They had just had a major surgery. It was a massive shock to the system. But I was also watching them in their slippers and their dressing gowns, and it just felt like misery to me watching them, just absolute misery. And so I was very grateful also that I had my own kimono. So this is my dressing gown that my dad brought back from Japan for me when I was 15. And so I had this with me, and just putting this on made me feel completely better. Just loved, secure, safe, it's bright, it's colourful, it made me feel positive. And what's more, when the doctors or the nurses were coming in to see how I was getting on, just about everybody had something to say about this, as opposed to if I was just sat there in my, navy dressing gown or whatever else I had that just didn't make me feel the same way. And I also had my holiday flip-flops, because every time I flip-flopped or flop-flipped along the corridor, it felt really lovely. It just reminded me of being back living in Cyprus, of being in a warm, sunny environment. And the sound of flip-flops for me is just a relaxed pace. You can't really walk that fast in flip-flops. So it was a lovely, relaxing thing for me to have too. So all of those things were creating a better environment. Now, the nurses were noticing that lots of the other people in the ward, they all had their curtains drawn back. They were kind of watching each other, just sat there staring at each other, as you often do when you're tanked full of morphine and you're just in the zone. And so I had my curtains closed, and my husband kept saying to me, "Why don't you open your curtains? You just be sociable, go and talk to people." I was like, have you ever had open heart surgery? Did not want to go and talk to people. So I allowed myself to keep my curtains closed, to stay in my own bubble, to not be exposed to everybody else's monitors, everybody else's worried facial expressions, everybody else's visitors. And eventually the nurses, within one day, tuned into the fact that, oh, actually, Sophia needs to be on her own. She's better on her own. I was also very much holding my own in terms of a really good recovery. And so I was moved into a side room. And in that side room, I was able to have my essential oils going, not burning, obviously, but on tissues and the radiators. I was able to have my curtains pulled or the blinds pulled as much as I wanted to. I could have soft music playing, I could have my towels out, I had my own little sink there, I had everything that I needed to just create the kind of ultimate sanctuary for me, the healing environment that I needed to have. And so all of that was there in that one place. And in addition to that, it was really just a matter of allowing myself to draw back and listen to my own needs. Not to feel that I had to go and be talking to people, not to feel like I had to go and make a certain milestone. Within a day and a half of having had my surgery, I was able to walk the length of the corridor, through another corridor, up a tiny little flight of stairs and sit on the roof terrace with my husband and have an ice cream. And I can tell you that was the best ice cream in the world. So when I was back in my room, because I'd created this lovely environment, the nurses on night shift were coming into my room. So it was like 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock in the morning. And I would have these nurses in my room, and they were completely welcome to be there, but they were very much saying to me, you know, it's so relaxing in here, Sophia. How have you done this? Like, what do you do for work? How have you created this place in such an amazing, relaxing environment? And they just wanted to come and sit in that space with me. Because for them, the frenetic pace, always running around room to room, there's people having emergencies, people bleeding, people passing out, people with all sorts of big stuff going on. And so for them to just come in and sit in my room with me, with the dimmed lighting and the essential oils and the quiet music, they just were in awe of the energy, of the quietness of that space. And I guess for them, because they were cardiac nurses, they're probably not used to that kind of environment being created, a real proper healing, holistic environment. Whereas if you were in a maternity ward, obviously the maternity staff, I would hope, would be accustomed to why that sort of environment and space is really important to you. So one of the other things that happened for me was that I had a catheter in for my actual surgery itself. They had removed the catheter, and one of the kind of precursors, I had to make sure that I could go and pee before I was allowed to go home. And if I wasn't able to do that, I wouldn't be allowed to be discharged after my 3 or 4 days. And so the catheter had been removed, my bladder was up like a balloon, I looked like I was about 15 months pregnant, and I was unable to go to the loo. So I just constantly had this feeling of tension, of tightness. My body, although my mind was calm, my body had kind of gone, not sure what's happening. And so I had the nurses come in to do a scan on my bladder, and if your bladder contains a certain volume of urine, then they need to put the catheter back in. Fate was on my side. And so I was using my brain's benefits, risks, alternatives, intuition, what happens if you do nothing, and smile. So the machine is broken, and then the nurse brings another machine, and this machine, they can't get the reading either. So they're pressing down hard on my bladder with the scanner to try and get the machine reading, not working. So I'm feeling quite reassured at this moment. And so I said to them, well, can we just leave it? I don't want another catheter. Oh, but we have to put a catheter in if the volume is this. But you don't have a reading, and I don't want another catheter. So I asked them just to leave me alone, give me 15, 20 minutes, and let me see what I can do myself to get this body functioning once more. So bearing in mind, I can't bend down properly because my chest is like just still stitched together. I can't really do anything properly. Everything hurts from head to toe. I'm absolutely aching. So I'm sitting there quietly breathing. I'm quietly going to my safe place. I'm quietly enjoying the scent of lavender to try and calm everything down. I'm using EFT, emotional freedom technique. Even though my body doesn't want to go to loo, I completely love and accept myself. Even though I feel uptight, I'm nervous in case I have to have a catheter, I completely love and accept myself. And I go round and round, I tap on all the different points. And I do this for maybe 5 or 6 minutes. And then the nurse comes back in and she's like, oh, how are you getting on? Oh, just give me a few more minutes. She goes away. I go to the loo, and it's like Niagara Falls. Everything that needs to happen, happens. No concern whatsoever. So she comes back through, how is everything now? I have been to the loo, everything is absolutely fine. And so there was no need at that point for me to have anything else. And then it came time to be able to go home. So, how does any of this relate to hypnobirthing? So let's look first of all. There's my operation plan. Totally went to the wall with the exception of having successful surgery. Your birth plan, even if none of what you want is what happens, as long as you have been involved in the decision-making process, like me saying yes to open heart surgery within less than 20 hours from the minute of getting the phone call to me being knocked out unconscious on the table, then that was my journey. But my outcome was to have successful heart surgery. The outcome that you're looking for is for you to feel involved and empowered in the decision-making process and to have a healthy baby at the end of it. So one similarity. knowing my rights and being able to say yes or no to intervention. I didn't want the catheter, I wanted more time. I didn't want the student to make the incision in my chest, and I didn't have the student do that. I told Mr. Jabber that was what I wanted him to do. I created my birthing environment. I had my operation partner there, my operations manager, which ironically is what he does a lot of the time anyway. I had him there for me to make sure that we had everything that I needed together. We had my nice environment, the lighting, the scents, the signs, the textures, things that made it feel like home. I also had photographs on the wall in the days afterwards, and cards that had been made for me to support me and to help me to feel good. So all of these things were coming together. I was using everything that I had. I was using my breathing techniques. I was using my special place, my happy place, my safe place to go to take myself physically out of the chaotic environment. I was using all of the senses to make the best possible environment. I was going with my rights, what I was allowed, what I wasn't allowed, and making sure that I got what I wanted so that I wasn't stuck in that, am I allowed to do this? Because one thing I noticed really early on was that when I went into the hospital, as soon as I took off my normal clothes and I was in the hospital gown, every part of me was, right, what needs to happen now? And I was looking to other people for direction. Should I always be on my bed? What if I'm over there and they don't know that that's me? And then quickly coming back to myself of, this is me, this is my body, this is my operation. Somebody else is doing the operation, but not without my consent. And so all of these things come together to really show you just how much power you've got, how you can use your mind, how you can use your body, how you can use your breath and your inner strength and your wherewithal to make sure that you have the right outcome that you're looking for on the day. And I'm delighted to say that I was back on my yoga mat within 6 weeks of my open heart surgery. So 4 years ago today, lying on that table with everything wide open and on a ventilator, it's really hard to believe that I am sat here right now with absolutely no long-term negative implications off the back of that. I've been signed off by everybody. I have one more checkup in a couple of years, which the consultant and I agreed on in September, and we both agreed it's for curiosity more than anything else, just to be able to go, that is amazing. So I don't take any medication, I don't have any remedial actions that need to happen off the back of that. I have no limitations on my life. Everything is just exactly as if it had never happened, but it has happened. And from that, I have the strength, I have the knowledge that hypnobirthing really is a tool for life, a skill for life. It's not something that you just use on the day that you give birth. So if you've got any questions about anything to do with hypnobirthing, or if you're due any other kind of surgery and you're like, oh, I didn't think about how I could use that before, then you know where I am. Just drop me a message. And if you're pregnant right now and you would love to get some more of that positivity, of the confidence, of the hypnobirthing skills, then I run the online sanctuary, the Prenatal Snug, which is £20 a month membership. You'll find all of the details at sophiahansen.com/services. And if you've just watched me right now, at the very least, drop me a little message and say happy heart anniversary, because it's an amazing, amazing thing. And I cannot thank Mr. Jabber enough, or my family and friends, for the support that I had at that time, and to all the amazing nurses and staff at Leeds General Infirmary. So that's it for now. Lots of love. I'll talk soon. Take care.